Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom.
Hey, it's day 2 of our food unit, and we're talking about one of my favorite types of food. That has to be pies. Pies. We say it both ways. My favorite pie is actually something that a restaurant used to sell. Besides my grandma's apple pie, let me just say that first. I love that. But there was a restaurant called Marie Callender's that would sell a pie called Razzleberry, and it would combine blackberries and raspberries and a little bit of blueberry, but blueberry's not my favorite. But, it was delicious. And then I would always get lots of whipped cream on top, or ice cream. We like to add ice cream on top of our pie as well.
Indeed. And, of course, there are lots of different kinds of pie to eat. I should say that if we ask people if they like to eat pie, we say, do you like to eat pie? You wouldn't say I like to eat pies because that sounds like you're eating the whole thing. Most people just have a piece of pie. So, yeah, I like pie.
I have eaten a whole pie before.
I think some people could if they're a glutton enough to do that. But,
if you're a pig, and I was a pig, my grandmother would often bake like 9 pies for Thanksgiving.
Why not?
I would sneak into the kitchen and steal one and take it up to my room and just eat it. But they always knew. But after that, Grandma made me my own pie.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Okay, so she forgave you for that. But in any case, as pie is quite traditional in Western countries and probably in other countries as well, which we're going to talk about today. Of course, pie is not only popular here in Taiwan and in the USA and Europe, but it's also popular in other parts of the world, albeit in different forms. So let's talk about that. Now, everybody, let's read our article now from top to bottom and find out about different kinds of pie.
A slice of history, the epic tale of pies. Pies come in all shapes and flavors. Some are sweet, while others are savory. Among sweet pies, apple pie is the most famous in the U.S. It features apples, sugar, and cinnamon baked inside a tender golden crust. This dessert became a patriotic symbol during World War II, when soldiers would say they were fighting for mom and apple pie. Furthermore, people often say something is as American as apple pie. This expression highlights how fundamental it is to American identity and values. Across the Atlantic Ocean, steak and ale pie holds a special place in British hearts. This savory dish features tender beef and rich ale sauce, all baked under a crispy top crust. With roots in medieval England, this hearty pie later became popular in pubs across the country. The cultural importance of steak and ale pie demonstrates the strong food traditions of the British and their love for classic comfort food. In North Africa, pastilla, an exceptional Moroccan pie, blends sweet and savory flavors. This exotic creation combines chicken, or traditionally pigeon, almonds, cinnamon, and sugar, all wrapped in paper-thin pastry layers. Modern variations include fish and seafood pastilla, as well as sweet Moroccan milk pastilla. Once reserved for royalty, pastilla carries immense cultural significance, as it's still served at weddings and special celebrations throughout Morocco. These variations reveal how the same basic concept has been molded to meet diverse culinary needs. They prove that pie, in all its forms, is both globally adapted and culturally unique, and that it continues to warm hearts and stomachs across generations. Okay, guys, pies come in all shapes and flavors. All shapes and flavors. It kind of reminds me of all shapes and sizes, which is kind of an idiom, at least something that we say about different kinds of things. Like people come in all shapes and sizes, or troubles or problems come in all shapes and sizes. We use that quite often. It just means there are a lot of varieties out there of something that you're talking about. Movies come in all shapes and sizes. Well, pies come in all shapes and flavors, different flavors. Some are sweet while others are savory. They're both good.
Indeed. And, of course, some of my favorite include lemon meringue pie. And, of course, I always like to have the little boxes that have one piece of pie in them that you can buy in convenience stores in the USA. That's a pretty convenient there because they're just, one serving. You don't have to buy the whole pie.
Yeah.
And, of course, there are different restaurants where I'm from that serve pie. I'll look them up here later on. But in any case, pies come in lots of different flavors. Some are sweet and others are savory, which would mean they're kind of salty, sort of like that. And among sweet pies, apple pie is the most famous in the U.S. Okay, that reminds me of an old commercial. We love baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. It's an old commercial for Chevrolet cars a really long time ago. But in any case here, yes, apple pie is very American. It's one of those things that people relate to if they're Americans.
Yeah, it's one of the most famous pies, of course, in the whole world, apple pie. It features or it has within it, these are the things that we want to highlight, apples, sugar, and cinnamon. And it's all baked inside a tender golden crust. I wanted to mention my grandmother had a special ingredient, and I can share it. I'm here in Taiwan. She would add a can of crushed pineapple to the filling, and it made it so much better. She also would cook the apples so that they were soft. Some people have apple pies that have the really kind of hard apples. They're not very soft and tender. That's not my favorite. I like the apples to be kind of soft inside. So here's what you need. You have to cook the apples and the sugar and the cinnamon together for a long time on the stove top. Or if you're lazy or don't have time, you can go to the grocery store in America and buy a can of apple filling for a pie and just use that can of filling. It's not the same. One of your favorite ingredients is there, Tom, cinnamon.
Cinnamon, right. I think it's rougui in Chinese.
Yep.
And, of course, it's kind of a brown powder that you can use for flavoring all sorts of different kinds of things. And yes, all these things are baked inside a tender golden crust. And of course, preparing the crust requires a lot of skill as well. You roll out the dough or whatever, you shape it, you put it in the pan, you fill up the ingredients, put the crust on top of that, and then you kind of pinch it together around the edges, and then you pop it in the oven, and you wait, 20 minutes, half hour, or whatever it takes, and you've got yourself a nice baked pie. Now, this dessert became a patriotic symbol during World War II, when soldiers would say they were fighting for mom and apple pie. I think I remember hearing that. I was not alive during this time, but when they talk about the history of America's involvement in World War II, you often hear this phrase, for mom and for apple pie. We're fighting the Nazis for mom and apple pie. And yes, it's patriotic. That means you just love your country. And yes, indeed, of course, if you were an American soldier at that time, and you ate apple pie, you felt like you really loved the USA.
Yeah, that's the adjective form, patriotic. The noun form is a patriot. If you're a patriot, like Tom says, you love your country and you support your country and you want your country to remain sovereign forever, having their own rights. It's a wonderful thing. I think we're seeing a lot of that even today with a lot of patriotism for your country. This is what the soldiers would say. As Tom said, it was kind of a slogan that they would use. I'm sure they missed their moms and they missed apple pie as well as they were fighting in World War II. They fought across the sea in different places. So furthermore, it says people often say this particular saying, it's as American as apple pie. I would say the Ford truck or the Chevy truck. Those are both brands of cars. The Chevy truck, especially trucks, they seem to be very American. So those trucks are as American as apple pie. Or the Harley Davidson motorcycle is as American as apple pie. They're symbols of America. When people see those things, they think of America. There's a symbol from Japan that when I see it, I always think, that's so Japanese, and that's Hello Kitty. When I see Hello Kitty, that's as Japanese. If I saw something else, it's a comparison between two things. If I saw something, Doraemon or however you say that cartoon character, is as Japanese as Hello Kitty. They both represent Japan.
Indeed, and you did mention those big trucks, the Ford F-150 or whatever. I don't like those. I think they're ridiculously big. But, of course, if you're in the USA, especially where I'm from in the Midwest, you will see them all over the place. And, of course, I've seen some here in Taiwan as well. It's catching on.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, those are ridiculously big vehicles.
They seem kind of big for Taiwan's roads.
I was going to say, yeah, where do they park those things?
Yeah.
But I guess it's kind of a status symbol to own something like that. I'm not going to buy one.
They're not cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap either. This expression, of course, as American as apple pie, highlights how fundamental it is to American identity and values. As American as apple pie, of course, that's kind of an American slogan. And to highlight something just means to stress something, to point something out. And yes, indeed, it just tells us or lets us know that apple pie is fundamental to the American identity. If something's fundamental, it's basic, you've got to have it. You could talk about what is fundamental to Taiwanese culture here in Taiwan amongst yourselves. I'm not quite sure exactly what is fundamental to the Taiwan identity here. But if you're an American like we are, of course, we know that apple pie is very American. Hot dogs, Ford trucks, all of them. The eagle, those are all things that are fundamental to the American identity and to their values.
Again, fundamental just means basic and very important. It's kind of essential or the essence of something. I think education is fundamental to the Taiwanese people. I was just at a junior high this morning talking to the teachers there, and I complimented them because the education system here is very nice, and they educate the students much more than they do in America. Our schools are kind of a mess, but I think they do very well at educating the kids here. And it's fundamental to the identity of a particular country. And again, values, as Tom said, is just the things that you believe are important and right, your personal beliefs. Everyone has values. For example, honesty and being a hard worker, or paying respect to your elders and being respectful to your parents. Those are all good values.
Okay, moving on to the next paragraph. We're going across the Atlantic Ocean from the United States over to the UK. Steak and ale pie holds a special place in British hearts. We often refer to the Atlantic Ocean as the big pond, or the pond. A pond, of course, is kind of a small lake, but they're using that as a metaphor when we're talking about differences between North America and the UK. Yeah, across the pond. This is how they do things over in England. And, of course, there they've got different kinds of pie. There they've got this steak and ale pie. Steak, of course, is meat from a cow. Ale is kind of an alcoholic beverage made from beer or something. It's kind of bitter. It's kind of dark. So I guess they have some kind of pie that has steak and ale inside. And British people just love those kinds of pie.
It's considered a comfort food in the UK, especially in England. They love their steak and ale pie. I don't drink liquor or alcohol, so this wasn't something I wanted to eat. That ale is actually stronger than beer. So they cook that beef in with the alcohol for quite a while. It cooks out the alcohol, but it leaves behind this really strong flavor that is very comforting to the British people over there. They love this dish. If you go to any pubs, they always have, you can either get fish and chips or steak and ale pie. And so if you enjoy savory pies, this might be something that you want to try when you go over there. The savory filling that is in this is baked under a crispy top crust. I do like the crust. The crust over there is very good. I like their shepherd pie. It doesn't have any alcohol, but it has that same crispy top, which can be quite delicious. So this is just one dish that you see if you go across the Atlantic Ocean, or as we like to say, across the pond. We're going to talk more about other countries and the types of pies they have. But first, guys, we're going to take a short break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是 Anna。我们昨天带大家来看一下这个派哦，很好吃啊。可是其实派啊，之前很古早之前，从古埃及啊，甚至希腊罗马时代，他们其实是当成 container， 是容器，是比较 practical， 很这个实用的这个目的。 那这个容器呢，不是说盛在那边，而是有保存 preserve 里面馅料的意思。那到今天我们当然知道派直接这个派皮啊，尤其是脆脆的特别的好吃，对不对？所以我们今天要看各种不同口味的派。可是我们复习一下，昨天带大家看了，特别强调了一个关系子句非限定用法，也就是打逗点跟不打逗点。打了逗点就表示语气在这里可以停顿啊，所以打到先行词的时候就表示语义我已经讲清楚了。例如昨天我们谈到的 Greece and Rome 还有 North America， 这我们大家都知道嘛，所以打个逗点我补充说明一下它的情况，这个不用限定，叫做非限定用法，补充说明的关系子句。那我们今天还是看到很多关系子句哦，但是是简化的关系子句。好，例如在第一段的第3句关系子句简化，所以我们在这边就可以提到所谓的简化是什么意思。像是第3句我们先把这个先行词抓出来。好，以第3句来说，因为谈到了美国的 apple pie， 这非常有名啊。第3句先行词是 apples, sugar and cinema， 这3个字都是先行词，后面的 baked 到句尾我们可以左右挂号起来。而 bake 的烘烤一定是被人所烘焙烘烤，所以它省略的是关代 which or that 跟 be 动词 are。 那为什么它是一个关系子句简化会剩下 bake 的呢？因为其实在句子的简化当中啊，只要连接词不见的时候，动词直接先变成动词 ing， 因为它不能再成为动词，它没有连接词的功能了。所以在这里的关代呢，其实关代的关啊，就是连接的关系。关代本身有2个词性，一个是连接词，一个是代名词。当关代不见的时候，连接词不见，后面的 are 就会变成 being。being 呢，它其实动词是一个功能性，它没有什么意义， be 动词没有意义，所以在句子的简化里面它直接被删掉，会剩下 baked。 例如我们在这个第4句这个地方呢，我们看到的是关系子句啊，这个非限定用法我们可以用来复习昨天我们提到的。我们看到是第2次世界大战之后，那个时候啊，大家就很喜欢妈妈苹果派，所以第一段的第4句这个地方啊，其实是复习一下我们昨天的关系子句非限定用法。当然先行词的 World War II 第2次世界大战，这是全世界都知道，就那个世界大战嘛，所以不用限定，打个逗点，然后我们再补充说明 when， 而在那个时候。好，那么这个我们是第一段谈到 apple pie 啦。不过在这边第一段的第5句也不能放过哦，因为我们有一个特殊句型叫做 as， 如同什么一样的如何如何，这是用比喻的方式啊，用具体的比喻方式来说明某个形容词或副词的一种程度。例如在第一段的第5句 as American as apple pie， 后面的 as 是比如好像的意思，也就是说用 apple pie 苹果派来形容 American 美式的那种程度。那所以美国这个 apple pie 呢，是它的一个 American identity， 它的一个身份认同啊 and values， 还有它的价值观啊，这么样的重要。那接下来的第2段呢，我们就谈到了这个啤酒牛肉派在英国当中有很特殊的地位。不过接下来第2段的第2句也有关系子句的简化哦，所以我们来看一下第2句关系子句的简化的先行词是 tender beef and rich ale sauce。 好，这是先行词，逗点之后从 all 逗点一直 all 到句尾这个地方是关系子句简化。那么它省略的是 which 跟 be 动词的 are。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Let's continue talking about different kinds of pie all over the world. We were kind of focusing on the American variety of apple pie, but now we're going across the Atlantic Ocean to England and Scotland and Wales and places like that. And they've got this beef pie, beef and ale, steak and ale pie.
Yeah.
People in Britain just love this kind of pie. It's a savory dish which has tender beef and rich ale sauce, all baked under a crispy top crust. It does sound pretty tasty. I'm not much of a beef eater myself, but if I were to go to England, of course, I'm not going to deny myself the opportunity to try their food.
Yeah.
So I would certainly try this. It's probably pretty tasty. It does sound pretty good. And I would imagine that British people would probably scoff at American pie. Oh, your pie is just so sweet. We've got this really hearty, strong man-like kind of pie over here in
Manly
England.
pie.
Manly pie, indeed. And you guys in America are eating that really sweet stuff that's making you really fat, like land whales.
Well, we are kind of fat in America. If you scoff at something, you're laughing, but in a mocking way. You're making fun of someone. So, yeah, they probably would laugh at us because a lot of their pies, especially the savory pies, they're very filling and they're healthier than our dessert pies, of course. In America, we tend to eat more of the dessert variety, although we do have savory pies like chicken pot pie, as we call it, that has kind of like a chicken stew inside. It's very good. And the crust, again, is similar to the crust that is on the steak and ale pie. I wanted to mention if you cook a beef or a piece of meat in ale or some sort of liquor or even Coca-Cola, believe it or not, it makes the meat very tender. I had a friend who made a beef bourguignon for me, but we don't drink alcohol, so he used Coke, and it really does soften up the meat, so it's very tender.
Oftentimes when you use alcohol to cook, the alcohol just evaporates anyway, if you're worried about that.
Except for 3-cup chicken here in Taiwan. Have you had that?
Yeah, I have, but I haven't had it in a while, so I'm not quite sure exactly what it tastes like.
It's still got a lot of alcohol in it. Yeah.
I do remember I do like it, though. It is quite tasty, although it's not pie. I will talk about that some other time, what kind of pie Taiwan has. But yes, indeed, we're talking about the steak and ale pie in the UK with roots in medieval England or in England in the Middle Ages. This hearty pie later became popular in pubs across the country. So we're describing this pie as being hearty, which means it's really filling, it's really satisfying, it's fun to eat. It's not wimpy like sweet pie is, which you have for dessert or something. This is something you have if you've been out working really hard in the fields or something and you come into the pub and you have a piece of this pie. It's really hearty. It really hits the spot. And yes, it's popular in pubs all over the UK, in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, places like that. They all eat this stuff. A pub, of course, is like a bar, although I understand they also have bars in England as well.
They do. A pub always offers food to eat as well. In fact, a pub is where I would go with my friends. We would always go to a pub. They have the best fish and chips at a pub. They also have dishes like this, but what they do cook is always considered comfort food that makes you feel good, and it's probably high in calories, so be aware of that. But yeah, pubs are fun. They have more pubs in the UK than they do in America. In America, it's mostly bars, and in bars, they don't really serve much food. Maybe they have nuts or pretzels, or if you're lucky, they might have wings that you can eat. But usually, pubs in the UK are much more fun. They're more like a very small restaurant, like a cafe that sells food that is yummy. So the cultural importance of that steak and ale pie demonstrates the strong food traditions of the British and their love for classic comfort food. They kind of compete against each other, these pubs do. You know, they'll have contests over there, who makes the best steak and ale pie or who has the best fish and chips, and they will use that as an advertisement for their particular pub if they win.
Sounds tasty. Okay, well, now we're going to leave the UK and go to North Africa. We've got pastilla, and that is an exceptional Moroccan pie. It blends sweet and savory flavors together. Okay, so again, we're going to Morocco. That's the first country that you hit going south from Spain there. It's in North Africa there. And this is a particular kind of pie, Moroccan pie, called pastilla. That sounds like a Spanish word, actually. Maybe there's some kind of relationship there. It's both sweet and savory at the same time. That sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, when I read the article, guys, I pronounced it the way they do in Morocco, which is Bastilla, with a B, Bastilla. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's similar to what looks like to be a Spanish pronunciation. They call it exceptional, so it's really, really good. It stands out. And it does something kind of interesting here. It blends sweet and savory together. That's not my favorite kind of flavor, I'm just going to say. But they like it, and they've gotten used to it. It's kind of like the peanut butter ice cream they have here in Taiwan, where they have that crepe wrapped around chopped up peanuts with a scoop of ice cream. That blends savory and sweet. That's popular in lots of cultures. This is considered to be an exotic creation. Exotic means something that's unusual or that you'd find in a foreign country. So kind of interesting, something you don't always see. Creation is something that's been invented or made that's new and is kind of unique. And I think you could say this is a unique blend of flavors.
Indeed, and it combines chicken with other ingredients, although it does contain pigeon. Traditionally, imagine eating pigeon meat. I can't imagine that myself, but I suppose since we eat all sorts of animals, why not just knock it over the head and pluck its feathers and throw it in the pot and see what it tastes like? We've also got almonds. That's a kind of nut. We've got cinnamon, and we've also got sugar. And these ingredients are all wrapped in paper-thin pastry layers. Okay, so you've got these small layers. I guess you'd have to see a picture of this to know exactly what it looks like. But basically, it's the same sort of concept. You've got all these ingredients wrapped in a crust.
Kind of sounds like a croissant with filling inside. So these are modern variations we're going to talk about now, which include fish and seafood, pastilla, as well as sweet Moroccan milk, pastilla. That sounds familiar. That sounds like something we'd have here. So it was once reserved or only served or kept back and only given to the royalty back then. The royal families had a lot of money, of course, so they could afford to have things that were special and unique. I wanted to mention, Tom, a pigeon, which is considered kind of a dirty bird. It was called by one of my teachers, the rat of the air. So rats are kind of gross and dirty and nasty
or
little
rats
things.
With wings. I've heard that before.
Oh, there you go, too. That works. So, yeah. Rats of the air. So, yeah, it's not something I'd want to eat, but it was considered kind of cool, and it was reserved for royalty, kings, queens, dukes. They all could eat this, princes and princesses. Pastilla carries immense cultural significance even today. So, immense means very large, big, great, enormous. And if you have cultural significance, it means it's important to the culture.
Right. Immense just means really huge. Like the American national debt is immense. It's huge. It's very large. So it has a great cultural significance in Morocco, and it's still served at weddings and special celebrations throughout the country. Now, these variations of pie reveal how the same basic concept has been molded to meet diverse culinary needs. Okay, so to mold just means to adjust it, to make it adapted to local places. And if something's diverse, that just means you have a lot of different things in the same area, like a diverse population, say, in New York or Toronto or London.
And they prove that pie in all its forms, because it comes in a lot of different varieties, is both globally adapted. They change it to fit the particular country and culturally unique. So it's unique to what that culture wants and thinks is good and delicious, and that it continues after all these years to warm hearts and stomachs across generations. I say yay because I love pie.
I like pie, especially if it's with coffee. And one kind of pie I have yet to try is key lime pie.
The best.
Yeah, I have no idea where to buy that. It's so hard to find. Even when I go back home, it's almost impossible to find.
Tom, I know a restaurant in Taipei that sells it. I'll have to tell you.
Okay, we'll check that out here pretty soon. And of course, it'll probably taste very good with tea or coffee. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher who just finished eating a piece of pie.
那么接着呢，我们就要来看第二段这边提到的英国啤酒牛肉派。不过我们刚刚在休息之前有提到这个关系子句的简化。我们提到在第二段第二句的地方，先行词的 tender beef and rich ale sauce， 逗点之后省略的是 which are。那既然这个关系子句简化呢，减少的字会让句子变短，所以就可以达到言简意赅的一个概念。同样在第三段的地方，虽然我们提到的是北非的 pastilla pie， 但是它的第二句同样也用到这样的一个关系子句简化的句型。例如我们看到第三段第二句 这个地方先行词稍微有点长哦，从 chicken 一直到逗点 sugar 这个地方，我们可以先划线，它是先行词。逗点之后的 all wrapped 全部被包住，人才会去包东西，所以很显然的，逗点之后省略的是 which are 前面这些先行词全部都被包在薄如纸的酥皮层当中。那么所以第三段跟第二段都有这样所谓的关系子句的简化，我们今天的句型重点就是关系子句简化。不过要提醒大家，如果是非限定用法补充说明的关系子句啊，逗点之后的冠带只能用 which 不能用 that 哦，只能用 which。那么不过我们在这边第三段的第三句啊，逗点之后你看到 as well as， 这时候可能觉得怪怪的，因为我们刚刚第一段说有一个句型是比喻的句型 as American as apple pie， 像 apple pie 一样的美式，那在这里难道也是这个句型吗？没有耶，这个就是英文有时候有一点困扰的地方。我们第三段第三句逗点之后的 as well as 整个把它抓出来，其实它就是 and and 的这个概念。当然有些字典会说它是介系词片语，有些呢直接说它是连接词片语。总而言之，它其实是一个 and 的概念，以及什么什么什么。以后我们会经常看到这个片语哦。好，那当然文章到最后一段就来个结束啦。在我们现代啊，派会有各种的 variation， 在第一句当中这个 variation 有很多的变异，变化就是各种不同的派。当然他们也证明了派不管用任何的形式，其实都会有各种不同独特的文化，然后大家吃了也很开心。不过最后面啊，这一段当中第二句请注意一下 proof 及物动词后面带了两个子句作为它的受词，第一个是从 that 一直到逗点，而第二是逗点之后 and 到句尾。特别注意第二个 and 之后后面的这个 that 是不能省略的哦。好，以上是我们今天的内容，希望大家喜欢。我是 Anna， 我们下次见。
That's all for today, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. And also be sure to check out our extra content on YouTube and Facebook. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.